Okay, so last video we finished with the MCL, or most comfortable level. This is again a level that we use to test at a super threshold level, because if you remember, the SRT is a threshold measure. Word recognition score is often conducted at what we call their most comfortable level, or very close to that. It's usually about 40 to 50 dBHL higher than their pure tone thresholds, or their SRT. Okay, so we also use the MCL when we are working with hearing aids to establish a threshold, a most comfortable level, and then also an uncomfortable level, which we'll talk about now. So the loudness discomfort level, or LDL, sometimes you will hear this referred to as, let me write some stuff here. Sometimes you'll hear this, so you'll sometimes hear it referred to as UCL, or uncomfortable level. LDL or UCL are the two terms. We use this a lot when we're fitting hearing aids. There's really no reason to measure the UCL when there's no reason to really measure the LDL or UCL when you're doing just a standard audiological evaluation. Now, if you're going to fit hearing aids on an individual, you need to have an idea of what's the loudest sound by frequency this patient can tolerate, because when you set the hearing aids, you want to try to avoid the exceeding this uncomfortable level. Okay, otherwise they won't wear their hearing aids. All right. Let me see if I can move on to the next slide. So word recognition scores, or word recognition testing, this is where we set the intensity to a comfortable level. There are word lists that we use. They're phonemically balanced. Okay, so they have a balance of phonemes by their occurrence in the kind of average speech. Does that make sense? So as they occur in the real world, they occur in the word list. So everyday conversation. And again, you can watch the video, see how she does the word recognition score. For word rec, we use the carrier phrase, say the word ball, say the word dog, say the word air, whatever the words are. Okay. And when we do it, we really try to monitor our voice, put a little space in there. I see young audiologists all the time working with patients that are in their 80s or 90s. Say the word, and they're going way too fast. Say the word dog. Say the word ball. Say the word. You have to slow down, present them everywhere. Say the word dog. And when you say dog, the target word, you want it to be, you want your VU meter, okay, to peak at 0 approximately, okay? And I'll show you one of those. Most oftentimes we use meaningful words. There are times where you might want to use meaningless, non-meaningful words, like what do we call those? Nonsense words. But in a comprehensive audiological evaluation, we use meaningful words. We use about 25 words. There are 50 words in a list, and we typically use 25. Now, the purist, the people who do everything by the book, will use 50 words, which takes a long time. So most of us use a 25 word word list. And then we test this at about 30 to 40 dB above your SRT, which is around your person's MCL. So let me do a concept here real quick. So there's a concept called sensation level, SL, and that was in one of the other chapters. So sensation level is essentially a level above SRT. So let me give you an example. So if I wrote down that I tested somebody at 30 dB SL, okay, I tested somebody at 30 dB SL. This is always relative to their SRT. All right. So here's an example. If I got an SRT of 10 dBHL, okay, 10 dBHL, that's my SRT, okay, and I tested them at 30 dBSL, sensation level, that's above the SRT. So 30 above the SRT would be 40 dBHL, okay. So sensation level, when you see SL, that essentially means above your SRT. So if I tested somebody at 20 dB, okay, I got an SRT of 20 dB and I tested them at 30 dB SL, I would be testing them at 50, okay, dB HL. So your sensation level is above your SRT, and it's basically you add that amount, okay? And we'll do more on that. Okay, let me erase this. Go to the next slide. Perhaps. Okay, let me go back here. I don't know what happened. So WordRec, we talked about dBSL. Here's audiogram of familiar sounds, and again, we're going to go over some examples of this. So for this chapter and some of the other chapters, I'm going to try to do a little bit of what they call a flipped classroom, where you get some lecture, and then we go over some more detailed kind of information. We'll review this again, but then we'll do some practical application type stuff. But if you look here at the audiogram, like where certain speech sounds would fall on the audiogram, you can see very high frequency sounds over there, s, sh, th, right? Those fricative type sounds. Here's some affricate. I lost my. There we go. Here are some affricate type sounds. Here you have the vowels here and here. So just a way to think about it is high frequencies over here, 2, 3, 4,000 hertz. I can't find the cursor. There it is. Over here you have high frequency sounds. Now some of these sounds can occur up into like 9, 10,000 hertz. Okay, this and sh, those sounds can have much higher frequency energy, but if you're looking at an audiogram, that's where we think they fall typically. And so when you think of speech sounds, a lot of consonants have higher frequency energy, but not all. If you look at this visual, you can see there's some nasal sounds, right? There's the R, it's lower in frequency. Okay, now we're going to go over different kinds of audiograms and what you might expect based on the audiogram, where their hearing loss is, but we'll do that next week. This is a tool that I really like to use in clinic. It's called the Count the Dots audiogram. And so the way this works is, you guys all probably heard of the speech banana, and you can kind of see the speech banana there, right? But in this case, we broke it down into dots. And each one of those blue dots represents 1% of intelligibility, okay? So there's 100 dots, okay? What we do is we will do a hearing test and we will draw their audiogram on the Count the Dots audiogram, okay? Let's use this one for example. Okay. So if you think about it, well, let's use A first, because A is essentially a normal hearing audiogram. And if you think about it, they can hear everything below this line, right? Because if this is the lowest level they can hear it, they can hear all of this. So for the normal hearing person, they're basically going to get all the dots, maybe a couple here, but yeah, they're getting 97% of the dots, okay, for the A audiogram, the normal hearing, okay? Now let's do the B. You have this rising configuration. So they're going to get all this, but They're going to miss these maybe, I don't know, 15 to 20 dots. Okay. Then if we do the more sloping configuration like this, they're going to hear all of this, right? Because this is the lowest level they can hear, this line. But they can't hear this. So in this case, they're going to miss maybe, almost half the dots. Okay? So maybe 50%. So this is a way, when you're doing a hearing test, to help counsel patients and say, this is the potential impact for you to understand speech, how much you're missing at conversational speech levels. Okay? Patients will always say, well, I hear better than that. Well, yeah, that's because people are talking very loud to you. But at a conversational level, without any voice increases in voice or vocal strain, this is what you can expect. Okay, so the articulation, the count the dots audiogram is based on what we call the articulation index. And it's basically what they do is they take hearing like bands of frequency, and they weight how much intelligibility is in that band. And if you look between like 1,000 and 3,000, so right in this region, there are a lot of dots, meaning there is a lot of intelligibility of speech in that region. There's less here at 250 and over here above 4, but there's a lot here. And if you recall, remember what I said when we do testing, we try to do 500, 1,000, and 2,000. That's because there's a lot of dots in this region here, even up to 3,000. But this is why we do particularly between 5 and 4,000 hertz. There's almost, 85 to 90% of the dots, or the percent intelligibility, falls between 500 and 4,000 hertz. Okay, so that's Count the Dots audiogram. Very useful tool. We'll talk more about it. Let's see what else we got here. So testing young kids, there's special word lists, PBK, phonetically or phonemically balanced kindergarten list. That's what the PBK is. Other word recs tests are the WIPI, the Word Intelligibility by Picture Index, the New CHIPS, Northwestern University Children's Perception of Speech, and then the Pediatric Speech Intelligibility Test, or the PSI. In my experience, the WIPI is the most common. Okay, and that's picture pointing, right? For that one, because it's identifying them by picture. PBK, I think you can get pictures for them, but that's, it's used for children a little bit older, like 4 or 5 years old, and they can usually will, unless they're being stubborn, will repeat words back to you. Okay. All right. So that's chapter 6, and we will touch base in class and go over some more detailed and clinically related info.